Hi, everyone. It is so nice to see all of you again. Last month, we were talking about misunderstood cards, and we kind of talked about continuing that this month. And then next month, we're going to talk about all the pages together and see what we can come up with. So, everybody doing well today? Everybody doing good?
Yes, all
So,
good.
we had somebody actually request that we do the Seven of Cups, that was a misunderstood card for them, or they weren't sure how to take that card. So I thought it would be nice of us to help her out and maybe talk about the Seven of Cups for a little bit here. So who wants to start?
I'll start. Why not?
Okay.
Okay.
Well, my understanding of the Seven of Cups is, about choices, about lots of choices being presented, and also about wishful thinking and about, trying to decipher, what choices are best for you, what's within reality, what's illusion. So I mean, I think when it comes up in a reading for me, it's about, okay, I can go anywhere I want. And some of these choices are just weird and maybe a little scary. Um, but at the end, if you don't, know, how does that cliche go? Um, feel the fear, but go anyway. But be careful, be careful with your choices. Not everything is as it seems. Something might seem really, really good um, now, but is it going to be good down the road? Or is this something that you think you want? That whole be careful how you wish. So, okay, that's all I have.
I think that for me, I've always looked at it as the wishful thinking card.
Yeah.
Not living in fantasy land, not necessarily in reality. I think though that it's a cup, right? And cups are about emotions
Yep.
and feelings. And I oftentimes, when we're talking about like finances, if it came up in a finance question, I might ask somebody, where do you put your emotional investment? Where do you put that? Because we have to, we have to live with the financial decisions we make, but yet it has to be in our head too. We have to have the right headspace for that. So sometimes I think that. I also think about not getting sucked into analysis paralysis, because that's what happens when we have too many choices.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, lucky you've got all these choices. Gee, I'm sorry, you can't make up your mind. So I think that is a lot of that card. But Anne Marie and I are working right now on we're putting it out later this week, a video on some of the truly hidden symbols in some of the cards. And I think it's going to be the following video. We're doing majors this week and then minors next week. And one of the things I thought was interesting is if you look at the card, and I can certainly bring it up here. Let me see. I can put it on screen. I'm going to do that one and share. There we go. Can you see that? I'll get rid of
Better. Yeah.
I'll get rid of all that in the background. There we go. Oh, I have all my, sorry. But if you look at this card, you can see that, we have different items in here, but on the wreath, which stands for victory, we have a skull. Can you see that? We have a skull on the cup, and I never noticed that before. And Anne Marie and I have been talking about that and about how, it's victory, but at what cost? And how is that going to change our life? Because how will it transform our life? And we've got we've got the snake, and we've got the dragon, if you will, which kind of stands for, deceit and danger. So not all the options that we have available to us are good options. I am still trying to figure out what the heck this, we're calling him a ghost, right? For lack of anything better.
Yeah.
But
The ghost is beside him.
the closest that I could come to this,
Spirit.
yeah, and the closest I could come to this is our indecision. This is our confusion.
Or it could also mean what lies hidden.
That's right.
You don't know.
It could.
Yeah.
This is supposed to the woman is supposed to be for potential romance. And the tower, I came up with something. Oh, the tower, the castle image symbolizes desires for authority, leadership, and influence over others. So, and of course, the jewels, is material wealth. And so it's interesting because you take a look at these items in there, and you're saying, "Gee, we have options, but not all the options are good. So you're going to have to choose carefully." And I think that's where I come up with, be careful what you wish for, because you just might get it. And that's kind of a thing for me. But I also think unrealistic expectations of people when I see this, especially in a work environment. It's so anyway, that's just kind of some of the things that I came up with on this.
Well, it's funny because the cup in the middle, the one with the ghost, spirit, whatever, maybe it's just like blinders over your own eyes. It's like, you got that person's got a blanket over their head.
Well, I think, and I found something on clouds. I'm looking for it. On the clouds itself is about, we think of clouds as obscuring our vision of confusion of, which kind of goes with this card. But in all actuality, it's we're waiting for the clearing to have our aha moment. And so when that cloud clears behind him, it should reveal the best path. So it's kind of like the aha moment is coming, will come through, the mist will part and it will come. And so those are kind of the one thing Anne-Marie and I have figured out, or I've really learned from working with her on this project of hidden symbols, is that when you look at a card, whatever symbol jumps out at you that day, it's not always the same for me. I mean, something different will catch my eye if I'm in a reading, and you're searching the card looking for answers for whatever question comes up. And if you hone in on one or two, if something grabs your attention first, that's probably spirit guiding you, if you believe in that, as I do. And that's probably the message or where you're supposed to go with that. But it's really helpful when you look at the symbols and you have a understanding of, at least for yourself, what those symbols mean to you. And then therein comes in the messages then, when you really need to have somebody, you need to help somebody come up with the answers. So anyway, anybody else on this card?
Just there, Lynn, sorry,
Go ahead.
away. Go on.
No.
Just as you were talking there, Lynn, about the figure, the figure in the center, you've got the fair-haired woman at one side and the snake on the other, or the serpent. And looking at Eden Gray's book, she tells us that the covered figure is the man's own angel, shimmering with divine light.
Well, that doesn't help me. Put that in us.
Yeah, that's what she says. And she also says that the snake is a serpent of jealousy, whereas somebody else tells us that the snake is good.
Yeah.
I can't find it where it is, but anyway, she says this: you've got the red dragon of temptation, the snake a serpent of jealousy, the covered figure of the man's own angel, shimmering with divine light, the head of a fair woman, a castle, jewels, and the wreath of victory over a skull. And it's really all about drama and castles in the air. And to my mind, when I look at this card, I see a pie in the sky. For instance, you're going to a work, you're going for an interview, and you're seeing this list of things that you're being offered, this list of perks that you're being offered, and you've got to read the small print, that not everything is as it seems.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
my feeling looking at this is, it's not all as it seems, and read the small print, because you're completely in the dark. You're over here in the corner in the dark.
Yeah. So, ladies, the question, what does my career look like in the next 6 months? And this is the card drawn. Where would you take that?
In the next 6 months?
Yeah. I want to know what will happen to my career in the next 6 months. And we get this card.
Well, this other person, who's this? Katz tells us that the 7 cups can be used within a reading as indicating 7 stages of transformation that we must undergo
Mhm.
in any creative or spiritual process. So maybe you've got to say, what if you have something in mind for your career, if you have a name in mind, what do you need to put in place before you're ready to go for that big job that you're looking for?
Could be, yep. It also could be a warning against indecisiveness. So if we want, if we have some options, or if we intend on making changes, that we better start now to pick them. Because if we only have 6 months to get that done. Or how about like unrealistic expectations? It's like, you're sitting back dreaming of the perfect job, when frankly you should be, paying attention to the one that you have. And focusing on what you can achieve here, as opposed to just dreaming about something better.
Okay, what was the question again, please?
What tell me about my career over the next 6 months.
Okay.
So let's say somebody wants to know about their career over the next 6 months.
In my interpretation of this, it would mean I would say that this person is being offered, or this person has multiple offers as far as jobs go, and this person needs to really look at each particular offer carefully, because like I said from the beginning, this card is all about choices, and maybe this person is looking at one job, it's like, oh well, wow, this job is great because this is something that I've always wanted to do, but oh my God, this company is better because it's a big name company, or so I would say do a little research, or a lot of research, on both the places that are offering you this this possible position. Just because one company has a big name and it seems like, whoa, this is the best, and maybe it's offering them more money, but what are you having to trade for that? Is the other job maybe something more closer to your heart, something that you've always wanted to do, maybe it doesn't pay as much? Pay attention to that, because in the long run, you could be selling your soul to a job that's going to suck the soul right out of you,
Yeah.
versus the possibility of having this other job that's um, um, not as highly paid, or maybe it doesn't have the big prestige that the other job is possibly offering. So that's what I would suggest this person do. Look really deep into the offers that they're getting.
So
Do your
funny, as you've been
research.
talking, I was saying that, these could be, various different jobs. I was thinking this could be 7 sides of the same job, pros and cons too. Because
Yeah,
there is good, and there's gonna be good, there's gonna be bad on any job, but being able to pinpoint, but without going into analysis paralysis.
right.
Another thing too, I've always said, and I try to push this in some of my videos, and that's not every card Every card in the tarot deck is truly amazing and truly, you know, you can go as deep as you want in any card, but not every card in a spread or in a reading has to be a major card. Sometimes it can just be a filler card. So this card might just be make a decision. It
Right.
could be use your imagination for something.
Yep.
Or quit procrastinating. Yeah, it could be any of those too. It doesn't have to be, you know, you don't have to get into the, you know, the depth of all that. So
Well, and it's also a minor arcana, which basically tells us that this is like a day-to-day kind of thing, an everyday type of event. You know,
Sure.
it's not a major game changer. You know,
No.
it's something
Middle
that
of the
you
road.
with. Yeah.
Now, I don't know how everybody seems to have their own little way of looking at numerology. To me, the sevens, and this comes from my studying Mary Kay Greer's 21 Ways to Read a Tarot Card. I love that book. But she does this Tarot Mountain, which I've done a something on the channel. But to me, the sevens are like a retest. You know, you've come from the conflict of the fives, you know, and you got some you got some victory, right? You got some wins. Now it's time to, you know, retest what you've done and improve what you've done before the big run down the mountain, you know, with the eights to the end. And so I often look at that as a seven, as a retest or testing my ability, testing, you know, something. So I kind of like that too. So anyway, sorry, I'm not real excited.
Another question you could ask yourself is, what are you missing out on by keeping your head in the clouds?
I
by
love
not
that.
looking at reality.
I love
what are
that.
you missing out on?
That's
And
perfect.
what situation or what part of your situation are you still being unrealistic about? That you know you have a feeling, you have this gut feeling, this isn't really for me, or this isn't really what I'm getting, but you're avoiding that. So
Yeah.
what are you avoiding? What is it that you are viewing unrealistically and
Sure.
not trying to get your head around? So I like that. I
All
like
that.
that. And
Yay.
again, the 7 stages, when it's saying there, the 7 cups, again, I'm coming back to what someone said earlier about what are the stages you need to go to, not to be disheartened. You know, some of these big jobs, you have a lot of interviews to go through. And you've got interview 1, 2, 3, 4, and you're beginning to lose heart. So maybe don't lose heart.
Yeah. So what one card that came up was the Hermit. Shall we take a look? And the Hermit really, it can be confusing to people because, you know, people call it the marriage card, but it's, you know, it's so different from that. Let me do that. Let me bring that one up. The Hermit card. There we go.
Oh, the Hierophant.
That's the
I'm sorry. I meant the Hierophant, not the Hermit. I'm
I
sorry.
was gonna say, when is the Hermit marrying people?
It was a trick question.
This is what I thought myself. When did
It's
that
all
become the
hidden.
marrying card?
I'm telling you, yeah, it's all kind of running together. No, so the Hierophant is just, it can be a really confusing card. People call it the marriage card. I don't know. What do you think, Kate? I know we were talking, weren't we talking about the Hermit card before?
Yeah.
Hierophant.
I've seen the Hierophant really badly read in by another reader in something, and it's always kind of stuck with me because she really kind of shot herself in the foot, which I felt sorry for her. Like I really felt bad for her, because she was interpreting it as being religion. It's a picture of the Pope. He's wearing the Pope's crown, like and obviously 2 novices at his feet. So it is that kind of imagery and iconography.
Yeah.
But I think we have to kind of open it up. It's institutional authority, whether it is on tradition, social norms, or any big institution. So yes, the church, but it can be the military, government, you know, law. And that was the thing. This was actually a question that was being read about law and lawyers and that sort of stuff. And this woman kept trying to weave in Roman Catholicism in the church, and she was just sandbagging herself, where she had stepped back and thought institution and the institution of the law, and that whole apparatus of the institution, she would have nailed the reading completely, but she got sidetracked by getting caught up in the iconography of it. So anyways, that was one that's always stuck with me, is that sometimes you can't just go with the basic what you see. There may be more to it.
I don't know if I have a book from Cassandra Eason, Eason. I'll put it down below. And I so love some of her depictions that I can't help myself. I put this in my personal journal. It's a quote from Cassandra Eason's book. Mr. Guilt Trip is what we call him. He's the brother of our adversary, the emperor, dedicated to keeping you in your place and feeling very guilty about your shortcomings. He's the traffic warden who lives in your head and can pop up every time you contemplate parking on one of life's double yellow lines. You probably first met this creep during childhood in the form of failing to please the emperor. Gosh, I think about my father. I think about how strict my parents were. Stop accepting the guilt loaded on you by others. The Hierophant is responsible for many unfulfilled dreams. It's the internal guilt.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not even on that page. There's no way would I no.
Yeah, I'm so
I mean, the
far off.
closest I kind of come is this is the male equivalent, the outward looking equivalent of the high priestess. Those keys crossed at his feet, the conscious and the unconscious mind, being crossed there and that sort of stuff. And yeah, no, he's not a traffic cop.
It's like, what? Yeah, I have to agree, because when I see the Hierophant, I see it as, okay, again, I mean, all the cards to me are about decisions. I mean, because you're coming to us because you need to make, pardon me, a decision. So when this card comes up, it's like, maybe you need to seek some professional help, from a therapist, or maybe, because I don't see it so much as a religious, card or anything. I see it as, if you look at the imagery on this card, okay, yes, there's someone there of authority. They're pointing to the sky, and and maybe that's like, listen to your higher self. You have the keys right in front of you to answer your own questions. There's two questions here. The way I see those two guys at the bottom, there's two paths. And the Hierophant is telling you to open up your mind, and you have the power right in front of you. You have the keys to whatever question you have, right in front of you. So yeah, and again, it reminds me of the High Priestess, because he's sitting between the two pillars as well. Anyway, and he's a 5. It's all about
they're both gatekeepers, right? They're both just a different version of the gatekeeper. Of both basically, he has the knowledge. Right. Yep. And I think they're both protecting that knowledge, protecting that information. When I see the Hierophant, I often think of, well, first place, I have always looked at this card as conformity. It's not coloring outside the lines. When I see this card come up in a reading, especially about work, a situation at work or career, I tell people don't stay within, don't step out of line, stay with tradition. Do what would be traditionally acceptable, so that you can, because it's about that. And I do like the idea of these papal chamberlains down below. I do like the fact that the power is right in front of them. And you could say that it's like, oh, if that's what you're drawn to in a reading, the guys down front, it's like, hey, you know what? What you need to succeed, the power that you need, or the person that you need to help you succeed, they're right smack in front of you. You just have to see that.
It's coming from above. Isn't it obvious?
Mhm.
And also the keys, the keys are good, because I always think that, there is a key there's an important key to open up the mystery, or to solve the mystery of what you're looking for. There's a very important key to this. And then I look to the left or to the right. I look at other cards to see what that key might be, because it's there. Dee, you got anything on this one?
Well, I look at it, and for me, in a reading, it's just going to point me to where we should be thinking, what we should be thinking about. And I always think of them as check your moral compass, because it is a decision that probably will have to be made. Whether it's the beginning of something that you're going to be the leader, or what gifts do you really have that you could use to contribute. Good judgment, fairness, but I don't ever think of it as spirituality. And I just think okay, here comes a big hospital, you're going to the hospital, kind of thing. Throw a clarifier. Whatever. That's where I'm coming out of it. Because it can go so many different directions.
Right.
And
I think great advisor also is a good is a good direction for this card.
I actually read somewhere where it says you're going to be inviting people into your home. Okay, whatever. That's the bottom of the list.
I'll have to say, anytime I see the Hierophant coming in, it encourages me or to ask people or inquire about people. Go to the right people to get the advice you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
You'll get any situation that you've got, you'll have friends telling you one thing, and you'll have neighbors telling you another. Everybody tried to help out, but they don't necessarily know the whole story. So I'm thinking, if it's a legal thing, go to somebody who has that expertise. If it's an accounting thing, go to an accountant or someone who's good with figures. Go to someone who has the knowledge that you need to clarify the situation you're dealing with.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And every deck that has the Hierophant, oh, maybe not every deck, but right now I'm looking at 3 different Hierophants, and all 3 of them, the keys are like, they're shiny, they're bright. So, there's something to that imagery as well. It's like, yeah, you have the key. You just need to know how to use it. Maybe that's what you need to do. Maybe you need to find someone to help you to open the door. And it's not just one key, there's 2 keys. So
yeah,
again, it's a 5. It's a chain.
And just as you say that, Yvonne, when we were looking at the Hierophant, you see, he's blocking there's a pillar on either side of him, and he's blocking the pillar. You see nothing beyond it. Behind him is blank, and he's holding up his hand. He's giving this benediction, this benedictive blessing, and the keys are underneath. What if he's telling you, look, you've done enough trying to find out about things. It's time to take action now. It's time to move. Everything you have, as Yvonne was saying, you have it within yourself. The key is there. Go and work on it now and stop. Don't try to get any further information. It's the reverse of what I was saying earlier, but there are 2 different sections. If you need more information, ask somebody who knows about it. But perhaps looking at the Hierophant, it might strike you that he's putting up a hand to say, like a policeman, enough. You don't need to go any further with this. Use the keys now and figure it out for yourself.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It actually stands for education. It's a symbol for education. So it's like, use your wisdom, use your knowledge, use your gifts, and figure out which way you're going to go with it. And then of course you rely on your question and all of that. But if you have a starting point when that card shows up, just like something to trigger you, and not that someone's going to come into your home and visit you. No. There you
Dang, I wanted to.
Maybe that's
yes.
what the keys are for, to make sure to lock up. So that people
love
can't get
I
in.
love it.
There you go. There you
I
go.
love it.
That's so funny. Well, the
Yeah.
hair, yeah, the Hierophant's always been, it's, we have some cards that are so obvious, they're so obvious what they are. And so it kind of just, makes the ones in between a little more confusing, how to mesh and how to blend them. That's what something we should do is we should pull some cards at a later date and do some combining, help people with their combinations, because I know that's something that we're always working on. What about the Queen of Swords? Who brought up the Queen of Swords? Oh,
I
that was,
did.
yeah, that was you, Yvonne.
Yeah.
You brought up the
Sharp.
Queen of Swords.
Yeah.
Let's see. I have her here somewhere. There we go. What why is this you said this, you think this is a misunderstood card? And something that you said was that caught me off guard, or in your earlier email to me, was that she's that she's like just the nurturer and really nice. It's like, I have never known the Queen of Swords to be a nice
Well,
card. I
yeah,
never
no.
see her in a good light.
Well, the thing is that I mean, when you talk about the queens in general, all of
Yeah.
them, they're the counterpart to the king, right? And kings are all about authority, and of course, queens are as well, but on a more softer side, a more nurturing side.
Right.
But when I see the Queen of Swords, I don't feel nurtured.
Well, no, it's Judith, right? That
Yeah.
is Judith, which is a character from the Hebrew Bible, although it's not canonized, right? It's one of the books that kind of didn't get involved. And often that card, not in this one, but often that card is depicted as her in her other hand with a severed head. And Judith was during, I think it was the exile to Babylon, and it was some guy who was going to kill all the Jews, and she and her maid kind of got in with him and promised him, good time, and he came to the tent and got all drunked up, and she chopped his head off and saved the Jewish people that were in captivity. That's who Judith is, and that's who's there, right, sitting in front of you. And yeah, that sword, that's a sword of truth she's swinging.
Yeah.
She's serious.
No, she's not fuzzy. She's not fuzzy.
Well, I
Mhm.
think, when I see this, also, you see the single bird in this card, the
Uh-huh.
single bird, a single bird, and it shows up in a couple of other cards as well. A single bird is supposed to be a symbol of freedom. And when I see this card and I happen to catch the bird, it makes me think of freedom of expression.
Mm.
I think about that. I also think that she doesn't mince words. She's kind of a tough cookie, but I think it's being tough when you need to be tough.
Yeah,
Yeah,
when
I
I
think
see her, it's like, I beg your pardon.
Go on, walk away, Yvonne.
Well, I was just going to say, the fact that she's not facing outwardly, she's facing to the east. It's kind of interesting. She's looking to the future.
Sorry, I think she's the only queen that looks like a head on a coin. She's
Right.
Yeah, she's not looking.
Profile.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
At least not in this particular deck.
Right.
There are other decks where she is facing outwardly, because I'm looking at the Aquarius deck as well.
Okay.
And she's looking straight out, but in this particular deck, the Rider-Waite, she's looking almost to the future, like beckoning. I don't know. So I have issues with her. Help
Yeah.
me.
From my journal, I love going back and looking at my favorite things I pick up, but I have that the main message is to stand in your power
Mhm.
and make logically sound judgments. That's her gift, is to be able to make logically sound judgments. And if she's a person in or around your life, then she's an influencer or an analytic. Think of Judge Judy. That's who I think of when I see this card. Is I think of Judge Judy, and she's more interested in discussing business than affairs of the heart. So I think, there are people when I'm hurting, I turn to the Queen of Cups. But when push comes to shove and you really need somebody in your corner or in a back alley, I think it would be the Queen of Swords.
Because she cuts through the Blarney. That's
Yeah.
why.
Yeah. She wants
And
the
you
truth.
see, they say in some of the books that she's portrayed as a widow or someone who has
Yep.
suffered a lot, who has known she has known a lot of things have happened to her in her life. So she's generally a good person to have if you're the underdog, a good person to have on your side. She takes no prisoners. The sword she has, you will notice in her card, is straight up. She's not taking any messing. Where if you look at the king, her counterpart, his
right.
sword is slightly tilted. He could be swayed one way or the other. But she's saying, this is how it is. The truth is important. We may get to the truth. And the little beads that are on her, the beads that are on her wrist, some people tell us that these are a set of rosary beads, that she relies very much on her belief in herself and her religion, and she's very solid in that. And others say that these have been cut off to show that she has released herself from a lot of bad situations, and she's been able to move away by using her own sword to release herself,
Which
using
is
the sword of
interesting.
truth to release herself. And she keeps this here to remind her that she was able to achieve this and she can do this for you. So I have a certain amount of liking for her, that she says it as it is. And that can be very useful if you're in a situation where you're flipping and flapping and you're not sure what's happening, for someone to be able to cut through to the basic facts and say, this is how it is. A,
And
B,
getting
or
to the
C.
point. Yeah.
Getting to the point that you can cut away a lot of this emotional. If you can cut the emotion out of any situation or choice that you've got to make, if you can move the emotion to one side and stick with the logic of it, and that's where she will help you out on that.
You know,
I think.
Mary, I love what you're saying, because as soon as you started saying about her cutting through and releasing herself, it brought me to the Ten of Swords. Is it the Ten of Swords? No. The Eight of Swords, where she's behind all the swords and can't get out.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Is it the eight?
Yeah.
Yes, it's the
Eight.
eight.
The Eight of
Mhm.
Swords, yes.
Yeah, and
Well-
that, that card is the one that says, that you can release yourself. You have the power to release yourself. And so that's interesting. That's interesting.
Well, I think that what I think also is interesting about this card is, if you'll notice, it's the only one where the clouds, the dark clouds, are below her, not above her in the sky.
Mhm.
So this is her ability to clear the air.
Yes.
To
that
me,
sounds
that's
very good, yeah.
clearing the air. It's it's, or getting right to the, like I said, getting right to the heart of the matter. But
Or
it
being able
also,
to rise above confusion.
right, rising above it.
Leave the confusion behind her and rise above it until she sees
Exactly.
the clear sky and sees
Nice.
it as it is.
Or cutting through the clouds.
Yeah,
Mhm.
cutting through the crap.
I didn't want
Cutting.
to say it.
Looking at the bigger picture.
Mm.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, she can see. Yeah, she sees.
You can see the bigger picture.
I also think when I see this card come up, I also think of how, are you being honest? Are you being honest with him if it's a relationship question? Are you being honest with yourself? If it's a personal growth situation. So honesty, plays a lot in that. But she's she's not afraid to
Very cool.
stand her ground. But she's also a defender as well. And she will defend others who are in need of that. So
I
she
think
does
so.
have her good side, and boy, can she ever. She's a master negotiator. She just does it with a little softer approach. That's all. Then the
E-
king.
Even looking at her, you say to yourself, she's not someone you mess with.
No, she's scary.
But she's very definite, and you're
Right.
not going to sway her.
Definitely.
You're not going to, unless you have logical arguments that she can deal with. Maybe they will sway her because she's very open to logic, but nothing else. No amount of entreaties or poor little old me or sadness or why is this happening to me again? None of that will sway her. She will say, why is it happening? What are you doing again and again and again? That's making this happen to you again and again and again. Where do you start to start freeing yourself of the situation rather than waiting for somebody else to do it?
I like that. I'm gonna have to have a T-shirt made with the Queen of Swords.
Mm. We've got this.
I used to remember I used to have everything with
Love
the
it.
Queen of Swords on
Yes.
it. Used to be in my booth and everything. I was
Really?
used to
Like the
be-
Queen of Swords.
Yeah, I don't know why. It's like, I mean, I'm an Aries, and so my card in the deck is actually the King of Wands is my birth card in the deck. But sorry, I've always related more to the Queen of Swords.
Mm.
So
Me too.
Thank you.
Me too.
Well, that was great. Well, thank you.
sorry,
Thank you
folks.
for helping me cut through the clouds.
But rise above it. Just rise above it.
I love it.
Gosh, I'm having a coughing fit here. Sorry, folks.
Oh. I've
Last card I wanted to talk about was let me see here. Dee, you asked about temperance.
Yeah.
You thought that was a misunderstood card. Temperance. Tell us what you what you mean by that, or why do you feel like this is a misunderstood card?
Well, hang on, I want to pull my card out.
I also have it up on the
Oh,
screen.
oh, good job.
Okay, there it is.
Well, I guess it's everything that's in it that kind of can throw you for just what exactly what it stands for, which is reconciliation, healing, moderation. But you also can ask yourself what feels most natural or what keeps you balanced, because there's one foot in the present, one foot in the past. If you notice, the water isn't going up or down, it's just flowing. I read where the Archangel Michael is supposed to be depicted in this picture.
Mm-hmm.
So there's angelic guidance there too. But down in the corner where you see that sun, that there's a crown in that sun, or then that golden spot down there right above the mountains, and that is supposed to resemble the emperor. And I'm just not sure how that whole thing comes blending in with what the element is fire. And mainly past and present is here, but to me, there's just a lot of questions that it can, which ways it can take you. Maybe it's magical. Maybe it's finding peace with yourself. Temperance your thoughts. Anyway, to me, it's just a lot in that card. Besides being patient, besides reconciliation. So to try to find one, and of course we've got whatever coming up on either side of it, where that can take you as well. I've got little things that I use, reaching new level of trust. I use that here and there. A little magical if you need it. So that's the only thing I can tell you with that card, because every time I use it, something else comes with it, comes to me. And I kind of really look at this card like the moon, really looking into it.
One of the things I think my go-to, or when I see this card, especially in readings, I think of avoiding extremes. That's that moderation piece in it. And so I think about that, and I also think about boundaries, setting boundaries and not and staying centered. Sometimes if for example, we have a career reading and they get the 7 of Cups, right? And they have these choices they have to make, and then the next card you get is Temperance. It's like, find your center in order to get your answers. You find your center. Anne Marie and I just, we got something on this for our other video, but one of a couple of things that I thought were really interesting that we'll go over is the fact that if you look at the Death card and you look at the Temperance card, one follows the other. And in the Death card, to me, it's just obvious that the same exact sun is setting in the background. And here, the very next card, it's rising. So it's sunrise. And it's like, hey, here's proof that, once the transition is made, it's going to be for the good. So, but Anne Marie too, the whole thing about the water, we talked about that, about how it's what did we say about that? It was not an unrealistic situation, but an impossible.
I must say, when I didn't like this card initially. I thought there was too much happening in the card initially, but for me now, I find it very comforting. Number one, you've got the Archangel Michael, who is a trooper who's going to fight on your behalf. You've got the wings, which will enfold you if you're feeling under the weather. So you've got help from above. But as well as that, you've got the 2 cups, and it looks unrealistic, because obviously water is not going, it looks to be flowing from one to the other, but they're not geared to flow from one to the other. So it looks as if he could be saying to you, look, this seems to be an impossible situation. I can see why you're down and out about it. It looks impossible, but we'll work at it. Don't worry. There is help there for you. Work with me. And another thing could be, it could be just an indication to you not to take on anything else, because your cup is already full. Your cups are already full and in full use. So deal with what you've got at the moment. Don't take on anything else. And another thing I usually feel about this card using it is it's telling you to make the most of the resources that you have available to you. That if each cup, if you take it as the resources that are available, things that you can do and you have available, make the most of them, blend them together and see what you can come up with, instead of looking for anything else that you don't have at the moment or that isn't available to you.
We also discussed the feet, didn't we, Emery?
Yes,
we talked about the feet and how and of course here's you got the balance, right? But from D, when we were talking about the crustacean and the moon card, on something else, we were talking about it, the rippling effect. If the water is emotion, right? If water is emotion, or it's finding something deeper, or delving deeper into something, are we delving deeper into a situation than we should be? Should we really be keeping balance? One foot grounded and the other foot is, reaching out, looking for something a little deeper.
Are we meddling in somebody else's business, maybe?
Yeah. It's like, are you sticking your foot into something you shouldn't? That's what we were talking about. Because if that's what attracts you when you see the card, if you're looking at a reading situation. See, if I had 2 sisters fighting each other and one was upset and came to me for a reading, one didn't know what to do. It's like, gosh, I got this card. I think that the foot might come to my attention, might be one of the first symbols that comes to my attention and says, maybe you're digging deeper in here than you need to. So you need to find some middle ground here, some balance. So
are you guys ready to get blown away?
Yes.
Yeah. Go for it.
Okay. So this card, I'm looking at it. I'm just looking at this card and the imagery on it. It's female energy for sure. Okay. To me, this card is saying keeping things imbalance, balancing things, right?
Yep.
Okay, so forever, everyone has always talked about, oh, look, 1 foot in the water, 1 in the ground. Here's a thought. This angel has wings. What makes you think that this, he's not just testing the water,
Ooh.
testing the water. Maybe he's not even really touching the ground. This angel
Stop.
has,
Okay,
yeah, this-
oh my gosh.
yeah, I'm blowing you guys away, right? Okay.
Yeah.
This angel, why would this angel, why not? If I was an angel, I had wings, and I came to this pond or whatever this is, maybe I'd want to test the waters, and okay, I got wings. I don't have to stand on the ground. And maybe
Testing
that's
the water. Okay, everybody, get your
Yes.
journals out.
testing the water, and you have wings.
Yeah.
Use
Yeah.
them. Learn to fly.
Well, you know,
Listen.
our little woman, Eden Gray, again, of 1970 fame, she tells us that he's resting on the land and water to symbolize that he's equally at home with the subconscious and the conscious.
Yeah.
So that even if he is hovering above with his little wings, yeah, but
Yeah.
it's a good. I like the idea of that hovering rather than actually standing.
Why not? Why
But
not?
she
I
said
mean,
he's just trying to show us that he's equally at home with conscious, which really doesn't help us a lot. But that's what she was saying. He's equally at home in the conscious or the unconscious. But where does
Funny.
that get us? I
So-
prefer the idea of him testing the water, to be quite honest.
I do
Yeah.
too.
it kind of looks fun.
Yeah. So there's some, cards that people think are, have, when you have, especially things like, especially ones like the Hierophant, when you have such diverse meanings in one card, it does make it confusing in figuring out when to use that card. So, listen, next month, we're going to be doing, we're going to take a look at the 4 pages together and say, let's look at the similarities, let's look at the differences, let's figure out when to use them. One of the things that I find is always hard is how do you tell when it's an attribute and when it's another person? Now, some people don't think that that the I don't remember who that was now that said that the king and queen were always people to her.
Yeah.
And that the knights and pages were always the attribute or the action.
Action.
And and so it's, but still, there's times when, if someone's got children. I mean, if I see, when I see a page come up on a Celtic cross as the first card, the first thing I'll ask somebody is, do you have children? It's like,
Interesting.
and then whatever the crossing card is, are you having trouble with this child with this particular situation?
Good point. Yeah. Good
Interesting.
point.
So that usually is what comes up for me, is it's usually like children, but it doesn't have to be. So for me, it's like the page of cups could just be, somebody who's really emotionally immature. It can be that. So it's like, when's a person, when is it that? So why don't we talk about that, and we'll do that next month. How's that?
Sounds cool.
Sounds
That
good.
sounds,
All right.
sounds good. That
Well,
sounds
let's say goodbye to everybody out there in YouTube land, and we'll stay
Bye,
on
everybody.
and we'll stay on and take care of some housekeeping business. Bye, everybody.
Bye.